Welcome back, everyone, to Day 5 of Wings Up Week. It's not Saturday, it's Sun and Fun, but it's the next best thing. Now, today's the finale, and it's a really special show featuring many of the people you might have seen in Lakeland had we all been there. This entire week has been a blast, and I want to thank all of the people of Sun and Fun who joined us. You can find the replays for the previous shows on our YouTube channel. Just search for Gold Seal, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. Now, a special thank you to David St. George and SAFE for helping put this full week of live streams together. They've been a great partner and a friend of Gold Seal. And if you're a flight instructor, please check out their website at safepilots.org. And speaking of flight instructors, come create a free account at groundschool.com. It's free to instructors and includes student monitoring built right in. All right, today, joining us are Dan Grider, Tom Turner, and some sad souls from Aviators Anonymous. They have some very depressing, I don't know why I'm laughing, they have some very depressing stories to share. Now, for those of you who have seen my engine failure after takeoff seminar, you'll remember the phrase practice and proficiency, recognition and response. These brave pilots from AA have shown us where this really leads: recognition, response, and redemption. So join me in a warm welcome to these weak individuals who have faced their demons and bravely delivered their tragic stories to us. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's meeting of Aviators Anonymous. This is a national organization of pilots whose goal is redemption and to help you return from the darkness into light. Welcome, guys, and thank you for being here at this week's meeting. I know this is probably embarrassing for you to come in the public and be like this, but we really appreciate the fact that you stepped forward. Now, this is the weekly meeting of Aviators Anonymous, so I'd like for you all to introduce yourselves. Brian, how about you first?
My name's Brian, and I'm actually a recovering aviator. Who am I kidding? I still fly airplanes. I still dabble in online aviation forums. I still look out the window and see planes flying over, and sometimes when I'm driving, I make near sounds. I've tried my best to quit, but it just doesn't seem to be happening, Russ.
Well, Brian, what are you doing to try to get out of this? I mean, it must be shameful to your family.
Well, I haven't worked as hard as I probably should to try to get out of it. I've been putting more effort into hiding it from my family. I think if I can somehow, they say you can't really live this double life, but I think if anyone can pull it off, I probably can. So what I've done is I've set up separate bank accounts. I'm telling a lot of lies, and I'm learning that if you cover up one lie with another lie, as long as you can keep that snowball going, your family doesn't know. You can keep flying. I think I can keep this going for a long, long time. So as long no one's looking at the checking account, as long as no one's asking too many questions, I think I can keep it up.
Well, that sounds a lot like politics, Brian. Well, let's move on down. Josh, what do you have to say for yourself? Let's introduce yourself, Josh. Tell us your story.
Well, I'm Josh. I kind of grew up into a family where the obsession about airplanes was just kind of everywhere. I couldn't avoid it. And things really took a turn when my girlfriend said it's either her or the airplane, and I'm gonna go change the oil in the plane later today. But it's really I've got to figure out ways to just force myself to not be able to fly. It's tough. It's really tough. But I just got to work through it and just kind of keep myself grounded. It's hard to talk about.
Josh, it's such a sad story. Do you have any hope for the future, or is it just is your life just ruined now? No
hope whatsoever. No, I've already got some avionics in my cart at a few different avionics websites, and I've come to terms with the fact that it's just going to be me in the plane forever.
Well, I hope that as you participate with the group here, that we'll be able to help you out and help take you from the darkness into the light.
I love you guys.
Now, Spencer, I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the group and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Spencer. I'm also an aviator. I've been sneaking around a lot, and I figured out the best way to hide it was to fly air shows. That way the money from the air shows would go to pay for the plane, and my wife would never figure it out. My accountant wouldn't know where all the extra cash came from. In fact, my accountant thought I was dealing drugs. He said, the only time I've seen cash flow like this is from the guys who sell cocaine on the street. The only way they keep themselves out of jail is because they claim it on their taxes. Otherwise, Al Capone would never have been caught if it weren't for taxes. He said, so you're doing a great job. Just keep it under the wraps, keep it low key. My wife didn't know anything about it. And one day she followed me in my car and she caught me in the hangar, and she was really upset. She said, I was hoping it was a woman because at least I could compete with that. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Such a sad and tragic story, Spencer. Having to live a life filled with deceit and shame, it must be awful. Do you have any ways that you have planned that you can help deal with this tragic situation?
Well, I think if I go out and try to break another world record, I could probably keep this under wraps for a while longer. Maybe no one will figure out, maybe she won't figure out what I'm really up to.
A world record
That's
of
it.
lying?
I don't know what else to do. No, in the airplane, another inverted flat spin record. I mean, it's just such a low key thing, and she just won't know. I mean, I don't even know how she hasn't seen all those Guinness certificates hanging on the wall in my home office. It's just, I don't know.
Well, let's come back and talk about that in a minute. Let's come back and talk about that in a minute. I think maybe if we bring the whole group together, maybe we can work on some things that we can all help each other with. Well, you all, there's nothing the matter with me, but something that you all can help each other with. Brian, do you have any advice for Josh and he just seems hopeless.
Well, I as I sit here, I've already been caught in a lie. My wife just walked in and said, "What's this?" She was doing the dishes, and apparently it's okay to drink out of the Gatz jar, but it's not dishwasher. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do after I get off of here, but I start thinking about how I ended up on this path. When I was in high school, all the kids were talking aviation and telling their stories, and I wanted to be like those kids. A lot of those kids had cool stuff, and so I thought, I'm just going to dabble in this for a little bit. I'm just going to experiment. I did RC planes. I did flight simming, and the next thing I know, I'm $10,000 deep in an annual on a plane I own. My family's had 2 interventions, or the FISDO trips, as they call them. But I don't see any stopping in the future at all. I don't know. I think this is it for me, guys.
I'm so sorry to say, Brian, when we have a member like you, but this just may be the end of the line for you.
I'm okay with that.
It appears your story is so sad, so tragic, and just seems to have no end. So
it's not as sad as Josh's.
Spencer, do you have anything that you could help Brian to? Well, heck, you haven't gotten off the wagon yourself, but or gotten onto the wagon. What can you do to help Brian? What might you give him as advice? It's such a desperate
Brian,
situation.
Well, first of all, I don't think Brian's a real pilot, because real pilots don't have time to make a bunch of YouTube videos and post them all the time. Brian, I really think if you learn to fly upside down, you would put new meaning into your life. It's almost a religious experience. I mean, what else do you do on Sunday except get in the sky and fly high closer to, some God? And I think that would really make a difference in your life if you were to do that, because there's nothing like turning yourself over and putting your butt up towards the sky and really showing God your better side, Brian.
His backside.
I appreciate what you're saying. And it's not that I don't want to change, but I think it's more like Russ said, this is the end of the line. It's like, when you get on this path, it's going to end one of 2 ways, either ATP or a YouTube channel. And it's not a sudden thing. It's very gradual. When you first say, I want to experiment with aviation, what do? You take a discovery flight. It's the cheapest flight you'll ever take. It's a gateway flight. You start out with a discovery flight in a 150, and next thing you know, you're flying Cirruses and you're headed for that YouTube channel. And, one can only hope we hit rock bottom as big as Josh has with his channel. And that's I guess, where I hope I end up if I'm going to go down one of those 2 paths.
Well, I know that Josh
You know,
and
I just
Spencer
want
are
to say,
both
Russ, I just want to say that I don't think I'm as much a loser as these other two. I think my life is actually in a much better place.
Well,
And I
you
feel
are
good
a real
about that.
flight instructor, as is you are a real flight instructor, as is Josh. But Brian, we have to admit, he just masquerades as one. And I think that's a big indication, a manifestation of his problem.
Yeah, I don't think we can support
It's
Brian anymore.
all
No,
part of that
maybe we should just get
snowball I
rid of him.
described. You mean
It makes me feel
I
dirty.
can go flying?
No, Brian, you're making me feel dirty, dirtier than usual. And let me tell you, that's pretty dirty.
Sorry, Spencer. They say the first step's admitting you have a
Josh,
problem. And at this point, I'm just not willing.
I think Josh and I would agree that,
Horrible.
yeah, we're starting to feel kind of icky right about now too. Would you agree, Josh?
A little bit. Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it was one of those things where, you know, as a kid, I just kind of the whole aviation thing. I saw my dad doing it, and it was just I wanted to be like Dad. And it once you get started down that path, you just can't bounce back from it. You really can't, man.
Yeah, I mean, once you see your dad do it, it's just never the same.
It's never the same. It's never the same.
Never the same after you watch Dad do it. Well, Spencer, I know that you've talked about some of the ways that you try to deal with your problems is your flat spin record. Let's go ahead and let's get away from this idea of problem, and let's talk about the good side of Spencer Suderman. Let's talk
like
about your
Suderman.
flat spins. We've had some people call in after your show on Tuesday and want to know what it's like to get into a flat spin. How do you get into it? How do you get out of it? Why do you have records, and why do you keep trying to break them? What do you have to say for yourself, sir?
So all good questions. So flat spins. You really can't get into a flat spin by accident. See, I did that on purpose right there, mostly because I was going to get paid at the end of the air show. So you're darn right, I'm going to get into one of those things on purpose. And I'm going to get out of it on purpose too. But that's an inverted flat spin. And when you do an inverted flat spin, you probably notice I've got my hand all the way forward. That sticks forward, elevators forward. You have to want to do it. You got to get the airplane turned upside down. You got to get it stalled inverted. You got to put the right rudder in. You got to get the stick all the way forward, and it's going to spin. And the recovery is just like any other spin. We use the PARE method, P-A-R-E, or power off, ailerons neutral, rudder opposite. In this case of the inverted flat spin, you're on the right rudder, so you put the left rudder in, and elevator, you pull it back to neutral, and the plane will recover nicely, as you could see in the video. So it's easy to get into, easy to get out of for that airplane. That's a pit special. Of course, it's one of the best spinning airplanes ever made. And a lot of people have asked me about the inverted versus the upright flat spin. Can you get into an inverted flat spin by accident? And the answer really is no, and I'll tell you why I think that. Is there ever a time when you're flying the airplane, and I'll let any of the other alleged pilots here, like Josh or Brian, because they're so busy making YouTube videos, I'll let them, maybe they can answer. Is there ever a time where you're pushing the yoke, because those guys don't fly airplanes with sticks. Was there ever a time where you're pushing the yoke all the way forward, which is what you would need to get into the spin? Guys, are you ever pushing the yoke all the way forward in your airplane? Are they going to answer? See, they don't know. They don't know.
I answered. Did we not catch that audio?
They don't even know.
They don't even know. No, they're like, no. But you might find yourself pulling the yoke back, right? Like you're practicing stalls. And if you're pulling the yoke back and you've got some yaw, some rudder in, or the all those wonderful propeller factors that are generated from flying that make that left turning tendency happen, you could find yourself accidentally in an upright spin to the left or the right. But Brian, you have toilet paper? Where'd you get that? Jeez, guys holding out on us.
The
spins.
video camera glitched. Sometimes it makes the thing look like toilet paper on the screen.
Oh, okay. I don't want to know what that little tiny round thing was that looked like toilet paper that you have. Where was it? Oh, spins. So could you get into an upright spin accidentally? Sure. You could do that just by practicing stalls. You could do that on departure. If you're not paying attention to right rudder, the nose of the airplane starts sliding off to the left. You increase the angle of attack too much. Next thing you know, you've entered a spin. But in inverted flat spin, you really have to work at it. And it's no different than entering an upright spin, just that the airplane's inverted. You stall it inverted by pushing the stick or the yoke forward and add the rudder in, and the plane will then spin. What's it like to be in an inverted flat spin? You know, it's kind of a neat, interesting, different feeling. You don't feel like you're upside down, even though you are. You're actually under about a negative G.5, I found, unlike just hanging upside down in an airplane where you're just at negative 1 G. You're mostly noticing the airplanes going around. People always ask me if I get dizzy, and I really don't. I'm not looking outside. I'm looking at the instruments. When I'm in an inverted flat spin, I'm also using full power. That's what makes the airplane spin flat and drives the maneuver as it's falling. So you have to pay attention to the health of the engine. Is the oil pressure where it's supposed to be? Is the oil temperature not too hot? And when I do these world record breaking spins, I start at about 23, 24, 25,000 feet. The airplane's pretty lean at those altitudes. So as the airplane's falling and spinning, I have to keep enriching the mixture. And I have to do that by looking over at the exhaust gas temperature, EGT. And as I see the EGT rise, I have to add a bit more fuel. A little bit of workload going on. And you ride an inverted flat spin, these record-breaking spins, down for about 3 to 3.5 minutes. So now imagine being in the airplane, you're upside down, you're inverted, you're spinning, and you're hanging out there for about 3 minutes. You're sliding up out of your seatbelt. You got to keep scooching yourself down, using your legs and your thighs to kind of pull yourself under the seatbelt. It's a hooker harness. The hooker harness is probably one of the greatest inventions ever made. If you've never seen one, it's a double lap belt, and there's a ratchet on it, kind of like a come-along ratchet on a truck tie-down strap. So you get in there and you ratchet, you click, 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 and you can see in some of the videos I have on YouTube or on my website that I'm ratcheting in when I first get in the airplane. You still can slide out of that thing when you're upside down. Your body weight just slides a little bit. So you start thinking about, what do you wear when you fly? You try to wear pants that, like jeans or a flight suit, something a little bit of friction, so that you don't slide out of it. You know, I really try to avoid leather or rubber suits when I'm sitting in the airplane, because, you know, it's kind of slippery and you'll slide right out of that seatbelt.
Oh, yummy.
All right.
I've been wearing the whole wrong thing the whole time.
Spencer.
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes. Yes.
I want to hear more. I want to hear more about the records and why you keep doing them.
Sure. So why do I keep breaking these records? Well, let's start with why I did it. When I was an air show pilot, someone said, "Russ, you got to keep Spencer on track. Don't let Brian distract him." So when I was an air show pilot,
That's what
I
happened.
thought one thing I learned is you need to find a way to differentiate yourself as an air show pilot. And I heard about the inverted flat spin world record, which Wayne Hanley is the one who had that record. I started flying air shows in 2006. Wayne Hanley last set that record in 1999. So I thought, you know, that'd be kind of a cool thing. And I actually liked that maneuver. When I was doing my pits checkout, my pits transition, the inverted flat spin is one of my favorite things. So I started chasing that record, and I failed 3 times trying to break that record. And it took a lot of work to get there. I had to figure a lot of things out. There's not a lot of people you can ask about how this maneuver works. Not a lot of people understand it well enough. So I made it like my science fair project. I learned how it worked. So the first time I broke it, and that was in 2014 at El Centro, right before their air show. What a great feeling. I did 81 turns. The old record Wayne had was 78. And I really thought that would make a difference in my air show career and book me more shows. And turns out it didn't matter. Booked the same number of shows. But boy, they were sure happy to say they had a world record holder performing at their show that weekend. And then I thought, okay, great, I broke the record. You know, not a lot of people are going to try it. Not a lot of planes are capable of doing it. And I thought, you know, I only broke it by 3 turns. And 3 is not a big deal. I should probably try to break it by a bigger amount, like go big or go home. I knew the airplane I had, the Pitts S2B, wouldn't do any more turns. I maxed it out, so I had to find another airplane. I found a Pitts S1, a single-seat Pitts, with an IO 540 engine. And if you know much about these things, that's a great big engine in a little tiny airplane. And because it's a shorter airplane, it spun a lot faster. It climbed higher, and I was able to do 98 turns. That was in 2016 at Marine Corps Station Yuma. Yes, Russ. Russ?
Don't give us all the details. Just tell us, why do you like to keep making new records for yourself?
So, the reason I keep breaking these records, frankly, is I just like to beat myself. I mean, no one else is going to beat me, so I might as well beat myself.
Okay. Man, I had to hand you that softball 2 or 3 times before you picked it up.
I'm not very smart, and I just get on a roll and start talking about me and my airplane, and then I talk about me some more in my airplane, and I just get all self-absorbed in myself.
And meanwhile, I got Flash Gordon yelling in my ear, "Get this guy back on track." I tell you what we're going to all do to get on track right now.
All right.
We are going to give away a t-shirt. So here's how this is going to work, and you guys stay with me here. We're going to put a picture up, and this is a picture of a very famous airplane built by Howard Hughes. And this airplane, well known by many people. First person, actually the 4th person to call our number, it's 888-514-1945, and pick option 3. We did this yesterday, worked great. The 4th person to call in with the correct answer wins a free t-shirt. So this airplane, what is it called? We're just looking here for its normal, what most people will call it, not necessarily the designation. So what airplane is this? So let's leave this picture up here for just a second, and while we're waiting for some callers to come in, Josh, I want to get back to you and talk to you just real quickly about this AQP program that you're working with Dan, and I know you've got some videos coming up, so what can you tell us about that to get prepared for it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dan Greider, he got this idea a while back to incorporate this concept called AQP from the airlines into general aviation. AQP stands for Advanced Qualification Program, and you've probably seen videos on Flight Chops. Steve Thorne has done some videos with Dan Greider on the Flight Chops channel. Very, very well done. That's exactly where I first found out about this AQP concept, through Dan. And basically what it's focusing on is our recurrent training in general aviation. Why are we having so many fatal accidents happen on the general aviation stage? And that's the very topic that this whole thing is trying to attack. Look at the airlines, look at Part 121. Why is their safety record so much better than ours here on the general aviation stage? And it really boils down to recurrent training. And if you look at a lot of the accidents, most of them are pilot error. We've got tons of statistics, and actually what I'm editing back here, I paused editing to get on this live stream with you guys, is part 1 of this AQP series of Dan. It's a big grassroots movement to push this AQP concept onto general aviation. And we're not calling for changes in rules or regs or laws or anything like that. We don't need or want government intervention here. We can do this by just changing the mentality of pilots in general aviation. What is a flight review? What do we do on the flight review? Are touch and goes and steep turns and chandelles really that beneficial to do on a flight review? We want to focus on what's killing pilots. Loss of thrust on takeoff. Spencer mentioned, inadvertently getting an airplane into an upright spin. Well, that can absolutely happen on departure. If you lose your thrust on takeoff or you get too slow, loss of speed awareness is a big thing we want to focus on. And basically just stop losing control of the airplane. That's what we're really focusing on here. And mainly just being aware and expecting these types of abnormal situations in airplanes and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be 5 or 6 parts to this video series on Aviation 101 on YouTube. And Dan and I really are going to dive into not only what this concept is, because he already kind of started that conversation on the Flight Chops channel. He's bringing it to Aviation 101 to bring a young, inexperienced flight instructor into the mix. And he's going to teach me how to teach this stuff to my students. And everybody's going to get to watch that process of me learning on camera. And then they can apply this concept to their own students. So that's kind of what we're focusing on here with Dan.
Okay, excellent. Really looking forward to seeing those videos. Are they starting next week?
Yeah, so the first one should be releasing
right?
on Monday. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to see how fast I can edit it. I'm a one-man show right now. But yeah, Monday or Tuesday is when part 1 is going to be released. There's already a trailer on my channel, so you can kind of watch that 3-minute trailer. It's on the homepage and get an idea of what the series is about. Subscribe, and then the series is going to begin releasing on either Monday or Tuesday this coming week.
We'll have to give you access to our render farm, and you could spit that thing out in about 30 seconds. Okay,
that'd
looking
be
forward to
great.
those, and Dan and I have talked about that in quite a bit. We do have a winner, or at least we've got a caller. We're going to find out if he's a winner. Okay, who do we have on the phone for the T-shirt?
Hi, my name is Thomas Rivera.
Thomas, how are you? Where are you calling from, Thomas?
Greenville, North Carolina.
Ah, North Carolina, not far away. Okay, good deal. What kind of flying do you do? Do you do fly single engine, multi-engine? What do you do? What do you like?
Well, right now I'm a student at Liberty University, working on my instrument. I'm going to be going through CFI, II, and MEI.
Excellent, excellent. I know Todd Shelnut, one of our associates, is a Liberty University grad. Okay, do you have the name for this airplane? We showed the picture of it. What is the airplane?
I think it's a Hughes H4 Hercules, which is a spruce goose.
Ah, you filled them all in. Excellent, you got it right. We were going to accept either Hercules or Spruce Goose, but that's right. What a great job, Thomas. So if you will write this email address down, it's prize@onlinegroundschool.com, prize@onlinegroundschool.com. In the body of the email, just put Spruce Goose, put the size T-shirt you want, and include your mailing address, and we'll get one out to you next week. And thank you for playing.
I appreciate it.
All right. Now we're going to do another question in here in just a minute. In fact, let's go ahead and put it back up here again, and then we'll talk a bit more while the calls come in. So we're going to give away, this time we're going to give away a copy of my book, The Art and Science of Better Landings. And as I've said before, as some instructors have said they are best-selling authors, I'm not one of those. But I do have a good book. It's The Art and Science of Better Landings. I'd be glad to send a copy of it to you if you can answer this question. It's going to be the same airplane again, but the fourth person to call in with the answer is going to win the book. And the question is, how many times did the Hercules or the Spruce Goose fly? An all-wooden airplane, how many times did it fly? Okay, while we're waiting for those to come back in, let's go back to our four Aviator Anonymous guests and kind of wrap things up with them. So do you guys, after our meeting today, do you think we need to have more meetings, or do you think you're going to handle this? Well, I think Brian's a lost cause anyway, but do you think we can do this again and maybe help you in the future?
I think with Brian not
Yes.
being here, I'd feel a little bit better about having more meetings.
Okay.
How does that make you feel, Brian?
So we'll probably do better without Brian then.
I think we could have a lot
Spencer,
of meetings
I don't know
without
about
Brian. We could get a
Okay,
lot
so
done
you're in
without him.
too. Okay. Well, all right.
As long as that means I
we
get
will
I'm in.
definitely
fine
plan
when
to.
you guys are having meetings, so it's a win-win, right?
Yep, we're going to put together more meetings of Aviators Anonymous, and we'll check on you guys as the weeks go by and see if you've gotten any better with these problems. I know it's embarrassing and kind of shameful. I feel embarrassed just to hear your stories, but we'll be doing this again in the future. Let's see.
Can we talk
Spencer,
about
one
my
last
plane some
thing.
more in the next meeting? On the next meeting, can we talk about my plane some more?
I've got a great idea. Let's have a meeting and it's just you there.
Yeah.
I'm
That'll
in.
work.
Like a whole hour? Just me?
That'll work. Just you.
Yes.
But I do have a question
I'm
for you
in.
while we're waiting for this.
Sure.
Waiting for this caller to come in. We'll even stream it for you. Okay. I know that you fly for Patty Wagstaff down in St. Augustine as an instructor. You were also in the Sporties course. She went over that with us on the program yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any interesting stories? Did you do any flying specifically for the course, or did they just pull out stock footage and there you were with your handsome face?
Well, I'm such a prolific producer of aviation videos that there's so much excellent stock footage of me. I did give them, to be serious for a moment, I did give them some of my footage from my pits. The Pitts S2B I don't have anymore. Now, since I moved to Florida, this is weird, I bought a Pitts S1, but it's back in California being prepared for the world record. So I'm here flying the extra 300 in the decathlon for Patty at her flight school. We did do some flying for Sporties. We did some formation flying and some other fun things specifically for Sporties, but it was mostly some of the scenes were like I was in a plane with a student, we're flying straight and level, and Patty was doing barrel rolls around us, and I've got some kind of cool video from our perspective on that. But it was mainly Patty's course, and I just supplied footage because she wanted the pits to be included because it's a really important part of the history of aerobatics, and Spencer Suderman, of course.
Excellent. Good story. Good story. Okay, well, I want to repeat this question again. The airplane that we showed, the Spruce Goose, how many times did it fly? The fourth person to call the number, it's 888-514-1945. Tell us how many times this airplane flew, and you will win a copy of the book. And heck, if you don't want the book and you want a t-shirt instead, we'll swap it out for you, no problem. Okay, while we wait for these calls to come in, I would like to move on to something new, and that is something to do with Dan Grider. He's a team member at large for Gold Seal, and he's out there flying right now. But he sent us a video right before the broadcast. We wanted to stream it live, but he didn't have time. So he made this video, and we're going to run it, and I think you'll find it very educational. So here's Dan Grider with a King Air, and then after that, hopefully we're going to have a winner for the book or t-shirt.
Getting ready to go fly a King Air here, and the most important part of getting ready to go fly is always the pre-flight. A couple of advanced things here that you want to look at, especially when you get down to the propellers. These propellers here are the advanced ones with the Q-tip props, and they are specifically designed to fly without the hub, and also these blades here have the special curling effect right here that you see that makes them go extra fast. A lot of people would not recognize this advanced feature of the King Air, but me being the PhD that I am, know that these props are totally perfect and ready to fly. And you can use this same technique in identifying a really good propeller just by watching my videos on safety, where we identify this airplane is excellent. This thing is like ready to go.
Thank you, DG. We appreciate that. We'll be talking to you tonight, and maybe we'll learn some more wisdom from you. Okay, we got a caller with an answer to the Spruce Goose question. So who do we have? Hello.
You got Scott.
Scott.
Hello.
How are you, Scott? Where are you from? Yes, where are you from, Scott?
Evansville, Indiana.
Evansville, Indiana. Okay, good. Well, what kind of flying do you do? What's your favorite airplane to fly?
Cessna 172.
Cessna 172, the ubiquitous Skyhawk. Well, good. A lot of people are in that boat with you, and they enjoy flying it too. Speaking of this airplane, the Spruce Goose, how many times did it fly?
Only one time.
Only one time, that's right. And it wasn't even supposed to fly that time. At least that's the story I hear. Way to go. Good answer. You won the t-shirt or book. I'll tell you what, send your email to prize@onlinegroundschool.com. And if you want a copy of The Art and Science of Better Landings, I would be thrilled to send you one. But if you want the t-shirt instead, give us your t-shirt size. And in either case, make sure to include your mailing address, and we'll get your stuff out to you. Sound good?
On the email,
I guess it does.
What was the email again? Hello?
Sure. The email.
Hello?
Yes, the email is prize. The email is prize@onlinegroundschool.com. Prize@onlinegroundschool.com. I hope.
Online Ground School. Okay.
Yeah,
and I'll include my
onlinegroundschool.com.
Yes, sir. Prize@onlinegroundschool.com. And
all right.
And yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I guess the other question is it once I've been flying the 172 and all. I know there's some differences in time. Like saying upgrading to the 182.
Yeah. Was that a question? How long does it take to upgrade? Was that?
Yeah.
Okay, the upgrade from a 172 to a 182 is not that big a deal. I don't know. Are you still in private pilot training and primary training, or are you already have your certificate?
I already have my certificate.
Okay. Well, the upgrade to a 182 does not take that much time. It does have cowl flaps to deal with. It has a constant speed prop, so you have to deal with manifold pressure instead of just the throttle. It's definitely heavier on the nose. It's a little bit heavier on the landing. You definitely have to hold more back pressure. A 172 floats a little bit more in the landing than a 172 does. But a 182 is perfectly, you'll have no trouble making that transition. Get with an instructor, and you can probably do it in 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 hours max until you're really comfortable with it. Some people actually start with a 182. And in fact, I trained 3 guys primary in a Cessna 206 about 15, 18 years ago, and had several instructors told me I was crazy for doing it. But it was really no problem. I just explained to them early on that because it's a much heavier airplane, don't expect to solo it as quickly as you would with something like a 172. But all 3 guys made it through, got their certificates in a 206. So yes, you can definitely transition from a 172 to a 182 with no problem. And thanks for asking that question. That's one that a lot of people are probably thinking about. Next, we have a longtime friend of mine, Tom Turner. Tom specializes in Bonanzas, and he's one of the most highly respected instructors in the country. His website is masteryflighttraining.com. We have a picture of his website there. He has a lot of good articles. He posts articles weekly, just a regular newsletter that he posts on Facebook and probably on his mailing list too. I strongly would suggest that you sign up for that. But Tom, how are you? You still with us?
Yeah, sure am. Doing great. Enjoying the show so far.
Yeah, it's been kind of different, kind of fun too. Let's see, you're a member of the Flight Instructor Hall of Fame, and that's quite a big deal. And you're the executive director for the American Bonanza Society Air Safety Foundation. Just tell us real quickly what's involved in having a role like that.
Okay, great. Well, here I am in the, thanks for having me, by the way. I'm in the fabulous ABS recording studio. The ABS Air Safety Foundation provides educational and technical content to support the nearly 10,000 members of the American Bonanza Society who own Bonanzas, Barons, Debonairs, and Travelers. And my role is to create and oversee the educational and technical content. So we do a lot of webinar broadcasting here in the studio. We publish an 80-page monthly magazine, and we provide online and in-person training programs, type-specific training programs for pilots, flight instructors, and mechanics who fly, teach in, and maintain beach piston airplanes.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Now I'm going to kind of go off script here. I know I'm not supposed to go off script and get out of sequence here. Will, tell me if this is okay. I would like to do that third giveaway before we get on with Tom, because it kind of goes into what he's going to be talking about. It's the one with the PAVE acronym. Will, am I allowed to do that? Yep. Okay, good deal. Okay, we're going to give away another t-shirt or book, whichever way people want. Again, The Art and Science of Better Landings, or the Watch for Low-Flying Aircraft t-shirt. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put up this PAVE acronym. Everybody has probably heard of it if you're in aviation. PAVE. The fourth caller at 888-514-1945. Pick option 3. Tell us what those 4 letters stand for. PAVE. So I'm going to go back, and Tom and I are going to talk about it a little bit and try not to give it away in our conversation, and then we'll wait for some calls to come in. So Tom, you're big into, Andrew, I know for a fact, because we've done stuff like this before, into aeronautical decision making and risk management. How big a part does that play in a really sophisticated airplane like a Bonanza?
Well, in any aircraft, we have really several different areas that we need to work with and on, and I'm going to talk about that in the presentation here. But aeronautical decision making is a huge part of what it takes to be successful as a pilot. We learn a lot of tasks in the process of earning pilot certificates and ratings, and we dabble in decision making, but even during the process of a flight instructional syllabus, many of the decisions are made for us, or at least overseen by a flight instructor. Once you are on your own, you are very definitely on your own. And not only do you need to master the physical tasks of flying the aircraft, you need to be a master of the mental tasks of operating that aircraft in a larger environment.
Okay, I fully agree. This kind of goes back to something that Dave and I were talking about yesterday. It's this concept that we hear a lot of students make, and unfortunately some instructors, that the knowledge test is really just an obstacle they have to get over. They don't care if their students memorize questions. It's just something they get behind, to get behind you. And that this idea of getting knowledge is not really as important as learning the kinetic skills of flying the airplane. But clearly something like ADM and risk management is stuff that has to be learned on the ground, has to be learned through discussions, through study, and good reason for it that's why it appears on knowledge tests too. What do you think about this concept that 70% is, anything over 70% is wasted effort on a written test?
Well, that's a low C, and if you are satisfied in being a low C student, uh, that's I guess that will get you by. We tend to think of passing the knowledge tests and passing the practical test as being the goal we shoot for, when in fact they are the lowest minimum standards that we should be that we need to attain in order to earn an entry level certificate or entry level privileges. And not only do we need to learn the information both on the ground and in the airplane to meet a minimum standard, but we need to maintain at least that minimum standard from that point on. One of the things that's very commonly said as that paper temporary certificate is being handed across the table to you from your examiner is, now you have a license to learn. And the problem is that we don't have much guidance as to what we need to learn and how we need to learn it. And so I like to think of what our goal is to become captain of our aircraft. Now, the universal symbol of the captain of an aircraft is the four-stripe epaulet. That's around the world, the captain of an aircraft is identified by that epaulet. And I use that as a symbol of the things you need to pursue to develop the mastery that our license to learn prompts us to begin.
Okay. And that's something that we're going to be carrying on in this next portion of the talk. We did get a caller that came in with the answer to the PAVE acronym. So, hello, what's your name, sir? Or ma'am?
Hello, my name is Rares Bernica.
Okay, thank you for calling. I'm sorry I wouldn't tackle that without seeing it in writing, but thanks very much for calling. What kind of airplane do you fly? What's your favorite airplane?
I currently fly a light sport aircraft. It's a Remos Golf X-Ray.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Yep.
Well, excellent. I'm glad you joined us today. Well, I don't care if you looked it up on Wikipedia or how you got it, but give us the letters for the PAVE acronym.
So P stands for Piloting Command, A for Aircraft, B is from Environment, and E for External Pressures.
Very good. You got it. Congratulations. Very good job. We will be more than happy to send you your choice, a copy of the Arts and Science of Better Landings or a Watch for Low Flying Aircraft t-shirt. So again, email us at prize@onlinegroundschool.com. prize@onlinegroundschool.com. Tell us what you prefer. If you pick the shirt, let us know your size. Let us know your mailing address, and we will be glad to get that out to you. And thanks for calling. We really appreciate it and hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Okay, Tom, back to you. We were talking about the epaulet. Let's go ahead and move on into your main meat of your discussion here.
Okay. Well, again, as pilot in command, Russ, we have a responsibility to manage not only the physical task of flying the aircraft, but also the mental tasks of making decisions and operating that aircraft in a three-dimensional environment. And like I said, when we're given that proverbial license to learn, we have very little guidance about what we should be doing with that license. What do we need to learn? So I like to think of that 4 stripes as representing the 4 areas of mastery that we need to pursue and hopefully eventually attain to truly be the captain of our aircraft. The first stripe prompts us to look at the aircraft and its avionics. Now, most pilot certification training, the training you take to earn a pilot certificate, is focused on this area, learning the airplane and how it operates, and learning how to operate the avionics, although that takes a lot more effort, and a lot of us end up moving into something with a lot more avionics capability than we had last time we took a check ride. But beyond just the physical tasks of how do I fly a stall, how do I make a steep turn and such, we need to be thinking in terms of how does this airplane's fuel system work? And what do I need to do to master it? Can I describe that fuel system? A good example of that was when I took my ATP check ride. My first question in the oral exam on the practical test was, the examiner asked me to draw a diagram of the fuel system of the Model 58 Baron we were flying, labeling all of the individual parts, the vents, the filler ports, where the fuel senders were, and all that sort of thing, and to completely describe to him how that fuel system worked and how I work it. That's the level of knowledge that we all need to attain. And anything from a Cessna 150 with an on-off fuel selector to maybe a highly complex multi-engine airplane that may have multiple fuel tanks, strive toward learning that. So as you are pursuing your license to learn, think about what you need to learn about the aircraft. The same goes for avionics. If you don't learn something new every time you fly a technologically advanced airplane, you're certainly far better than me. What I do is I will look at a particular feature or set of features on the avionics and decide, okay, when I take this next trip, I'm going to try to learn more about this particular set of features. For instance, right now I'm learning more about vertical navigation. I didn't know much about that before. That first stripe reminds me I need to think about things I don't know about the aircraft and don't know about the avionics, and actively try to learn more about them. The second stripe is the environment, and the environment encompasses weather, and it encompasses the ATC system. As far as weather is concerned, we learn a lot of weather theory in the process of getting ready for practical tests, but we don't learn a lot of weather practice. Even when you're earning your instrument rating, for instance, we tend to fly in very, very good weather. And so a couple of things that I used to do when I was doing a lot of primary flight instruction, I would never make the call for my student. From the very beginning, I would have the student tell me whether or not we could fly that day and why or why not. Secondly, something that I taught myself to do, I don't know how this came about, but when I was learning to fly, I learned the different categories of weather, VFR, marginal VFR, IFR, low IFR. And I just quizzed myself. Look out the window, or when I first walk out the door in the morning, and just ask myself, what weather category is it today? And learning to make my own observations and apply those to the rules in which I could operate the aircraft. So that's the second stripe. Find elements of weather, the environment, and also the ATC system that you don't know, and look for AOPA online seminars. Take some of Russ's online ground schools, the Gold Seal ground schools. Look at other resources that can fill in your knowledge gaps, pursuing that second stripe of being captain of your aircraft. The third stripe we've talked a little bit about, but third stripe is human factors, which incorporates or encompasses aeronautical decision making. We learn very, very little about these tasks in the process of earning our pilot certificates and ratings. Yet these are the tasks, or these are the areas of mastery that are going to keep us alive in our airplanes. So spend some time looking at some things that maybe aren't as exciting about flying airplanes, but aeronautical decision-making courses. There's a lot of great information available, most of it free online, a lot of stuff behind paywalls that are definitely worth the price. And evaluate your own fatigue state and your ability to make decisions. One of the things about fatigue, there, with the exception of flight instructors who are limited to no more than 8 hours of flight instruction a day or in a 24-hour period, we have no duty time limits as Part 91 personal aircraft operators. Establish yourself a duty day. I use 14 hours from alarm clock to engine shutdown. If I'm going to land an airplane more than 14 hours after I took off, I'll cancel the trip. All right, so establish some rules, learn more about that sort of thing. And then the fourth stripe is the hardest of all to teach. It's even hard to talk about. And that fourth stripe is command. The three other stripes can all be done in a somewhat passive manner. We can fly the airplane. We can stay within the middle of the envelope. We can operate in very good weather conditions. We can put ourselves in conditions that, in scenarios that don't require us to make a lot of decisions. But if something goes wrong or things turn out a little differently than you planned, you need to be ready to step in and truly command the aircraft. For example, if you have an emergency in flight, don't ask air traffic controllers what you should do. Tell them what you need, what information they can give you, and what you want to do. And that's the level of command that we are pursuing when we are earning that fourth stripe. So to wrap that all up, think about those four different categories or four stripes that represent command or captaincy of your aircraft. The aircraft and the avionics, the environment, human factors including aeronautical decision making, and then exercise of command in the aircraft. And ask yourself, where do I have gaps in my knowledge? And then seek out ways to fill those gaps. So that's how I try to develop the next level of flight instructor when I work with flight instructors. And that's the goal of command, of goal of captaincy that I try to instill in all of my students.
A great way to look at it, and I've never actually seen it broken down like that, making it a ladder that give people the steps to move up in proficiency up to true mastery. So Tom, I really appreciate you putting that together for us today. I invite everyone to go back to Tom's website, masteryflight.com, learn more, and actually get on his mailing list. He sends out great stuff every week. Well, it's just about the end of the day here, Saturday. I wish we were at Sun and Fun down in Lakeland, but we're not. So thanks so much to everyone who came here with us today and sat with us, and particularly Brian Turner. You've been working with us behind the scenes all week, and I really do appreciate it, Brian.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I think it's important for people who are watching to know how much work went into this. You're not just throwing a cell phone in a room somewhere. You have a massive crew of people that are in disparate locations, putting in a ton of effort to make this happen so that we can get content. So I am really, really appreciative, not just to be able to be a part of it, but also that you're doing this, because this is a ton of work. I see a little bit of what you're putting into it, and it's a lot of work.
Well, it was the perfect week to do it. We all wanted to be at Sun and Fun, so what we tried to do is put together all the people that would have been with us at Sun and Fun, and that includes you. Bring all these people together so that you, the viewers, can actually see us and talk to these people and hear their stories, even though we weren't able to get together in Florida. So, Brian, that's a wrap. We'll be back next week with a single broadcast, but this is the end of Wings Up Week from Gold Seal and SAFE. So I want to tell everyone who watched us, thanks so much for being a part of this. Thanks for being a part of the Gold Seal community. And I want to tell you specifically to fly smart
and show everybody that you're just plain silly.
This webinar is brought to you by SAFE and the Gold Seal Online Ground School, where instructors join for free. Visit Gold Seal at onlinegroundschool.com.